Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in. G'day guys, welcome to this episode of the Ending Body Burnout Show. Episode is a connect the dots one. It's all about endometriosis, gut issues, anxiety, depression. So we've got a listener who submitted their details to us.
Yeah, so if you're new to this podcast, we do different types of episodes. And today is a connect the dots. So essentially we've had a listener send in her case through a podcast form, and Chris and I put our detective hats on to connect the dots around her health symptoms, what might be happening at a body systems level, and what might be happening at a deeper metaphysical root cause level. So we're very grateful for Alicia for being brave enough to send her case in today, and we're really excited to dig into it. If you are someone who is listening and you're like, oh, I'd really love my case reviewed on the episode or the podcast as well, just head down to the show notes and there is a Connect the Dots application form that you can send your case to us. And also, this is pretty important both for the person who sent this in, but also for anyone listening that is resonating with the symptoms that we're going to dig into today. This Connect the Dots episode is for informational, educational purposes only. So it doesn't replace an official consult with us or with your medical doctor or practitioner. It's really coming from a place of education, being able to look at your health issues from a different perspective, and also looking at these health issues from a very specific lens, which is our holistic approach to ending body burnout. So hopefully you enjoy the episode today. Okay, so let's dive into today's case. So the biggest body burnout symptoms this listener is struggling with is chronic fatigue, chronic neck and pelvic pain, insomnia, depression, anxiety, gut issues, endometriosis, and this lovely lady said ... to name a few, with a little emoji face that is laughing with a tear coming down the face. So I'm always, when I'm looking through these application forms, I'm not just getting the information at face value. I'm looking at what else has this person said between the lines, maybe not verbally, but in the way that the language patterns are showing up, and also the use of emojis. So just a few things on this sentence is when someone says to name a few, it usually means that this person has a lot going on inside their body and their mind. So this is clearly a body that is feeling dysregulated and not safe.
A lot for them. You know, so some other people might not be experiencing or not being a certain way or being the way Alicia is when experiencing the same or similar sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So she's overwhelmed.
Yeah. Also, when people use the emoji, and again, like I haven't sat down and had a consult with this woman who is sent in the listener case, and neither is Chris. So we're just speculating. If things don't resonate, that's totally okay. This is where actually the value of having a one-to-one coaching conversation or practitioner consult will help to fill in the blanks. But when someone uses this emoji around their symptoms, it's like laugh face, smiling. I see that as a sign of self-preservation. So if I don't laugh, I'll cry. Also, it might be a little bit of self-judgment. So if I laugh at myself first and all the things that I've got going on, I've gotten in first before someone else can judge me. So I'm just putting that in as a little maybe a seed or a pattern that might be showing up, that there might be some fear of judgment and also probably judging self. So when someone laughs at self, it actually is a form of self-judgment. Okay, and we'll dig into more of that sort of stuff, the more metaphysical things that are happening underneath the surface in the second part of this episode. I also like to get an indication of when symptoms started. So that is another question on the form. When was the onset? What was happening around the time? And also, what has the person tried so far? So we're not reinventing the wheel in this case review. We're actually looking at the missing pieces. So this listener said that she has had endometriosis for the past 25 years, but was only officially diagnosed 18 months ago, which is not uncommon at all for women struggling with this issue. They'll often, go to the GP. They're often prescribed the pill, so endo can show up as painful periods. I'll talk a bit more about the specific symptom in a second, but it's just interesting that this is not a abnormal experience for a woman to only be diagnosed with endometriosis decades later, because the investigation of it isn't very thorough from a medical point of view. She's also been struggling with gut issues for 15 plus years.
What does that mean? Did she say specifically?
What the official diagnosis was only 18 months ago.
No, for gut issues. Was it just blanket statement?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure. Is it bloating? Is it constipation? Is it heartburn? Not sure. There's also chronic neck pain, and that's been going on for 10 years. And then postpartum anger, depression showed up 7 years ago, and extreme insomnia that led to a psychotic break that had me finally start on antidepressants 14 months ago is also this timeline of when the symptoms started showing up. So this is interesting too, that when there's this build-up of imbalances over many years, this is a really clear signal that her system is in such a state of fight-flight and shut down or freeze. Maybe it's like a dysregulation and jumping between the two, that when you start off with one physical health issue and then there's a combination of others, this is clearly a body that doesn't feel safe in her own body. And so then nervous system dysregulation shows up, which then starts breaking down different body systems, and it starts showing up as different types of symptoms in the body and also in mental health. Also, it sounds like her system was in such a state of fight flight until 14 months ago, she literally couldn't sleep. So she had extreme insomnia, which led to a psychotic break. Which then essentially led to a shutdown of the system. So this is, we're just painting the narrative and the story of what's happening inside this body. So some things that were leading up to these events. So very stressful pregnancies and births, followed by postnatal depression this is in her words, that I wouldn't medicate for. And again, I'm always curious around people's language and the choices that they make. So, I know a lot of people in the holistic health space would prefer to treat, support, get to the root cause naturally, as opposed to using a medication as a Band-Aid. But I've also noticed a pattern with kind of health anxiety often shows up, where it's I'm too scared to take that thing because then what if I get stuck on it forever, or it makes me worse, or I try a bunch of things, medications, and none of them work, then what is there left for me?
And the vibe that people come at natural and holistic health as well, there can be, for love and self-care and giving yourself permission to be however the heck you want to be. But then we see it a lot, is actually there's a lot of I will not medicate for this, and that's coming from a state of fear. Not saying that, Leisha, you were, but there can be from a place of fear and judgment and anxiety and stress and hatred and not trusting and all this sort of stuff. So the vibe is low.
Yeah. I mean, it can show up as a perfectionism pattern as well, or like an all or nothing pattern. So perfectionism in terms of like healthy and natural is like, well, I will only do this and I will not do that. So we're really just picking out patterns, or it's showing up as patterns. So are there other patterns where I wouldn't medicate for this? Does that show up as a pattern in other areas of life?
And then that can also be drama as well, playing into a drama in a drama triangle kind of thing. Victim, I'm a victim here. It's the aggressor. It's doing this to me. This has done this to me. I can't. I've got no other options. I don't want to do that. That sort of thing.
Yeah. And we say all of this with compassion and love. Like, it's all normal. These are just patterns that are showing up that has a lot of data and wisdom in them. And so we're just bringing them to the surface, not to say like, oh, well, you should have medicated yourself if you had postnatal depression.
All wounds hurt when you poke them.
We're not saying like I'm actually not for or against the medication. It's very individual for the person. It's more just like, what are the patterns that are underneath the decision making, or the fixating or holding on to something in an all or nothing way. Okay, so also after the birth of her second child, she had, this is pretty intense. So had a baby, second baby, then she had an appendix removed, then she got COVID, then she got a fungal ear infection that landed her in emergency and related to the insomnia. This then amplified endometriosis pain when she stopped breastfeeding, that led to a laparoscopic surgery. So that's a lot of stuff to happen in a short space of time. I mean, I don't know the timeline, but it sounds like the way it's listed, it all happened like almost like as a cascade effect. So birth in and of itself, even if you have a lovely, wonderful birth, it's still stressful to the system. Like, you are birthing out a human being from your body. There's a lot of stuff that's happening. But then in a surgery or a couple of surgeries, a couple of pretty nasty infections, it's no wonder that things really blew up around this time with insomnia and the breakdown, the mental health breakdown. She's also mentioned that general motherhood is contributing to the onset of the symptoms. She did try to attempt homeschool for a year but wasn't managing well. Also, she has a husband struggling with late adult onset type, I think 1 or 2 diabetes. And yeah, so there's other health issues going on, and there's no family support. So it sounds like there is a lot of life stresses. There's also some pretty nasty acute infections and surgeries that are toppling on top of each other. And yeah, if I had this woman one-on-one for a Connect the Dots, I'd really want to dig into earlier history too, like even right back to when the endometriosis issues started. And I assume that was before kids. And just getting a really good indication around like, what were your hormones like when you first started menstruating? What was teen life like? And also going even further into childhood. So our clients, this is actually, it's not just clinical experience, but there's also a lot of studies that show that endometriosis has a strong link with high stress states as well as trauma. And so there might be some things that happened in this woman's upbringing where she felt unsafe in some way, which affected her hormones and her immune system. And so, yeah, digging into that side of things too would give a lot of data in terms of what's actually causing this and where has this come from, and what other types of healing do you need that goes beyond just physical, supplements, medication, surgeries, diet, in order to be able to get to the bottom of not just the endometriosis, but also the mental illness and the chronic gut and body pain. Okay, and then in terms of treatment, so this lady said that she has tried many diets and supplements for gut issues with no real difference. Again, there's not any specificities in terms of what she tried, so that's what I would want to dig into. She also said she's tried all the chiro, physio, acupuncture, rehab, massage for numerous physical.
All.
Yeah. Oh.
Did she wrote it like that as
Yeah,
well?
I'm reading her words. So again, this is like
All. All.
which shows both that she feels like she's definitely tried a lot. And I think when there's this exaggeration of all the things, it's almost like I feel a little bit hopeless. I'm at the end of my tether. What else is there? She also mentioned she's tried exercise, natural supplements for mental health and insomnia, therapy, hypnosis, women's circles, and then at the end of all the things she's tried, there's another little emoji, which is I don't even know how to describe this one. It's like the melting face emoji where it's like, when I see that emoji, I think about like, oh, I've done all the things and I'm feeling a bit loopy or a bit hopeless now, and I'm like melting into the earth. And again, just a little pattern to think about. So is this only showing up in your health, or do you feel like, or is it also showing up in other ways as a pattern? This almost like hopelessness. Hopelessness isn't the right word. It's just exhaustion. I actually probably would see that emoji as like, I'm kind of exhausted now, but I've got a little loopy smile on my face trying to like hold it together. Like, it's okay. I'm okay. But really inside, I feel like I'm falling apart.
Interesting.
Okay. All right. So let's break these symptoms, issues down into two parts. So we're going to start off with looking at the physical body system imbalances first. So in our practice, we believe that body burnout, when we're looking at the causes of it, it's always both physical and metaphysical, both body and mind. We're a holistic, interconnected being, and you can't actually separate the different parts of ourselves out, which is why when people do try and get to the root cause of what's going on with their health issues, but they're only focusing on, say, the physical health with lab testing or supplements or diet, or maybe they're only doing the metaphysical side of things, but they've got some real physical imbalances that need some TLC at the same time. This is a common reason why people aren't getting the progress that they want to see. So in terms of the physical side of things, let's chat about the body systems, and I'm going to start off with looking at endometriosis first and foremost, for a couple of reasons. One, it's where the health issues started, so I think it would be interesting to see what's going on there and how that's then led to other symptoms. But also too, I don't think we've really focused on endometriosis much on the podcast, and it is a really common symptom that we see in people with body burnout when their hormones and immune system and nervous system are out of whack.
Most of our clients are female, and most of our listeners are female too, so it's interesting. We haven't touched on this yet. Have you got a diagnosis of endometriosis? Be interested in hearing.
Yeah. Okay, so even though Leisha has said that she's done a lot of sups and diets, she didn't mention anything around lab testing. And this might just be because she forgot to put it in, but I'm going to assume just at face value that she hasn't done any lab tests, which if this is the case, it's kind of like I get excited when that happens, because it's like, oh my gosh, there's like so many things that you may have missed that could really move the needle and make a big difference in your health recovery. So we have a saying in our practice, test, not guess. It's like if the supplement protocols and the diets were just based on symptoms, maybe it might have been practitioners suggesting things based on symptoms. Maybe it might have been from Dr. Googling. Maybe it might have been from my best friend did it and she got great results. It's not a very effective way of healing the self because you don't really know what's going on. So when you can test different body systems that relate to the health symptoms that you're experiencing, then we can create a protocol that your body needs at the right dose for the right duration and in the right timing to be able to move the needle so that you can heal. So endometriosis is a condition where tissues similar to the lining of the uterus, it's called the endometrium, grows outside of the uterus. So it's very abnormal, and this growth is most often happening in the pelvic region. Which is why pelvic pain can be really common with endo. But this growth can also go into other areas of the body. Like we've had clients where it's ended up like attaching onto their intestines and in other weird places of the body.
Wow.
So not good. And this tissue responds to hormones. Like in a normal healthy woman, the tissue responds to hormones and it thickens and then it bleeds out each month. But when this growth starts happening, it's because the bleeding doesn't actually exit the body, and then those endometrium bits and pieces in the body end up as actual tissue, and it can lead to inflammation and scarring and even pain for some women. And some symptoms that can begin shortly after puberty. The symptoms of endometriosis can begin shortly after puberty and can last until menopause. This is a common case. Alicia said she feels like she's had it for 25 plus years because she probably ticks all the symptom boxes but wasn't diagnosed until 18 months ago.
Wow.
So it can be an issue that continues until you stop bleeding. And it's also something that can be rebalanced, healed, recorrected. So estrogen is a female hormone, and it promotes inflammation and immune dysregulation if you're producing too much of it, and it can contribute to symptoms, which is why it affects women during these reproductive years when estrogen levels are quite robust. And many women with endometriosis experience cyclical symptoms with debilitating pain during the menstrual cycle. So some of these symptoms can show up as period pain, really heavy clotty periods, pelvic pain, infertility. There can also be a lot of systemic issues as well. So there can be gut issues, there can be back pain and other pain in the body, headaches, bladder problems. So it can cause a lot of symptoms. And endo is considered an inflammatory syndrome. So similar to an autoimmune condition, it is an immune system issue at its root. It's where the body experiences inflammation, and then this causes the abnormal growth of endometrial tissue. So inflammation, when I hear the word inflammation, I always think about stress and danger. So from a functional medicine point of view, it's like, okay, well, if inflammation is affecting the immune system and the nervous system and the hormones, and then it's leading to endometriosis, where is the inflammation coming from? And this will be coming from both physical sources and also metaphysical sources, which is why you want to look at this from a holistic lens. So some things that I would be thinking about testing would be the female hormones. So estrogen promotes endometrial growth, while progesterone opposes estrogen and helps to maintain the uterine lining for pregnancy. High estrogen doesn't necessarily cause endometriosis, but it can exacerbate the condition. So testing the female hormones, looking at your estrogen, progesterone levels, as well as testosterone for any imbalances, can be really supportive when healing from endometriosis. And if any of these hormones are out of whack, then we would want to rebalance them as needed. And you can do this naturally. I'd also be thinking about doing some lab tests on the adrenals and also the brain. And I would consider these areas for a couple of reasons. So the adrenals and the brain are really helping you to respond to stresses appropriately. So your adrenals are secreting your stress hormones. Your brain is also creating neurotransmitters like adrenaline, which is similar to cortisol. It's kind of like your fight-flight response brain chemical, but it's also producing serotonin and dopamine, which can help balance out and create a more parasympathetic nervous system state. So knowing that there is, through research, a link with stress and endometriosis, we'd want to look at what's happening at a physical level that's causing, that could be contributing to dysregulation. Also, your adrenals, so cortisol and DHEA, which is the stress hormones that we can test for, they flow into hormone production. DHEA converts into testosterone and estrogen, and cortisol can actually suppress the production of progesterone. So looking if the hormones, the sex hormones, for example, are out of balance, I would always look upstream at what's happening with the adrenals. Is that impacting the production of your sex hormones? Looking at the neurotransmitters as well can tell us at a physical level if there's fight, flight, freeze happening, and then helping to support these areas of the body so that you can start responding to stresses in a more healthy, functional way can definitely help with getting out of dysregulation, which will also help with reducing inflammation from a fight, flight, freeze perspective. Also, I'd be thinking about detox liver. There's a lot of research that shows that toxins and chemicals that are often found in plastics and personal care products and clothing and all sorts of things mimic estrogen. So they're called endocrine disrupting chemicals. And these chemicals can disrupt your hormones in your body because they mimic estrogen. They're known as xenoestrogens. And they can then cause your ability to produce your hormones in a functional, optimal way to go haywire. And this is often where women can actually start producing too much estrogen because these xenoestrogens are mimicking estrogen. So your body feels like there is a lot of estrogen stuck in the body and you're not clearing it out effectively, especially if your detox pathways and your liver aren't working very well. There was actually a study that looked at chemical exposure and it was linked to the development of endometriosis, and these chemicals specifically showed up as pesticides, chlorinated chemicals. So that's kind of like, like our water. If you don't filter the water out, there's chlorine in that. There's pool chlorine. Brominated chemicals, fluorinated chemicals, which again is found in so many of our water supplies and different foods. Lead was also connected to endometriosis and a whole heap of other chemicals. So from a lifestyle point of view, I definitely recommend cutting back on any toxins that you have control over. Start filtering your water, start purchasing natural organic skincare and cleaning products, spray-free vegetables, all that sort of stuff. And I would also test the function of the liver and detox pathways. Even if you have been living a low tox life, I would still look at what's happening with your detox pathways. I remember when I tested my own liver detoxification system, I'd already been living about 5 years of low tox living, to the extreme of like I just made everything from scratch. And when I did my lab tests, I was shocked at how burnt out my detox pathways were still so burnt out. So yeah, I wouldn't disregard your detox pathways if you're someone who's already cut back on the lifestyle toxins. Now
and so therefore this is a critical what I said before, just to ram this point home. You can approach low tox living, healthy natural ways of doing things out of fear, out of shame, out of guilt, or you can do it out of joy, love. You know, you get high vibe type stuff.
Yeah, very good point. Because I remember when I was on my own health journey and when I was really just like focusing on the physical and the lifestyle, didn't realize that there was anything else going on underneath the surface metaphysically. But my approach to low tox living was very fear based, to the point that, like I would just get worried about going into a supermarket and going down the cleaning aisle. I'd get angry if people brought perfumes or, things into the home. It was almost like my thoughts amplified my dysregulation and the symptomatic response to chemicals. Whereas now we still live a pretty low tox life, but I'm not anal about it. It's like, I know my body is healthy and strong. I know my detox pathways are open and flowing. My body will get rid of anything that it needs. And I also love it. Like, I'm not going to go and drink chlorine because that's not going to be good for it. But it's coming from a place of love, nourishment, support, as opposed to I have to avoid it, otherwise I'm going to die. Okay, a couple of other body systems before we move on to the metaphysical side of things. So definitely I think about gut health, like specifically because Leisha has mentioned that she has gut issues, but also gut health plays a pretty big role in endometriosis. So again, there's research that shows that gut bacteria in the microbiome produce LPS metabolites, or lipopolysaccharide metabolites. Big word.
Spell that.
LPS.
That's a man. Okay. That's a Scrabble winner.
So this metabolite actually is inflammatory. So from the endometriosis point of view, if you've got an overgrowth of bacteria that are producing this more toxic metabolite, it's another source of chronic inflammation in the body, which can cause the immune system to go haywire, which affects the endometrial growth. And there was a research that showed that LPS is found, or was found, in a significant proportion of women with endometriosis in their pelvic fluids and in their vaginal microbiome and in their period.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy. Yeah. The other thing too is when I'm thinking about the gut, so I'm kind of thinking about lab testing as well. So you want to test to see what's happening with your microbiome. But also one of the stool tests that we run looks at a marker called beta-glucuronidase, which essentially is showing you how well you're clearing out estrogen and other toxins from the body once those toxins and hormones and metabolites enter the gut ready to be pooped out. So if that marker is really high, which it commonly is actually with women with endometriosis or high estrogen type manifestation, then your body's not able to naturally clear it out, which means that your stores or the hormones circulate much higher in your system than someone who is clearing it out effectively through their gut. And that's going to cause more inflammation, more toxicity, more imbalances. And whatever's going on with the gut issues, I mean, I won't talk too much into that because I don't know the specific symptoms, but they're highly likely linked to the endometriosis anyway. I'd also think about the vaginal ecosystem. Now, again, I'm talking about a lot of different body systems. If this was a client with me, it's kind of like, these are all the things that could be happening, but this would be biggest priority with starting in terms of lab testing. I'm just kind of taking a bird's eye view over the main body systems that we look at. But the reason why I mentioned the vaginal ecosystem is to look at dysbiosis that could be affecting reproductive health. So if you have nasty pathogens overgrowing in the microbiome, or if your beneficial microbiome is really depleted, that can have an upstream effect into your uterus and into your hormone production. And again, there's a lot of research that links vaginal dysbiosis with different reproductive and female hormone issues. Okay, I think that that's good. Just touching on the mental health and the body pain. So I'm kind of going through, as I went through those symptoms, it was sort of as they were presenting over time. And then eventually there's the body pain and the mental health issues, which doesn't surprise me. So if there's a lot of inflammation happening in the reproductive area and in the gut, it's at some point going to start impacting the physical body in terms of it, like the inflammation can show up physically as pain in the body. And it's also going to start affecting mental health for a lot of women too. So there's the gut-brain connection via the vagus nerve, which can literally start inflaming the brain. And so that's where a lot of people can start developing anxiety, or like clinical anxiety, depression, psychotic episodes. It's not all just in the head. There can be some real physical things that are contributing to the amplification of how you're feeling mentally and emotionally. Okay, let's move on to the metaphysical.
Can you say literally, just real quick before we get into metaphysical?
Literally.
Literal. No.
Oh.
Can you say?
I'm like, did I say it wrong? Literally.
There's a comma in that sentence. Can you say literally? What is endometriosis? Is that scarring, or is it cysts, or is it growth? Like
it's endometrial growth. So I mentioned it earlier. So what should happen?
What do you mean by that?
So what should happen is you've got your uterus, and when a woman's cycling, the lining of the uterus grows. The reason for that is because it's like if we get pregnant, then we want to hold a baby. And if a woman doesn't fall pregnant, then the lining then turns into period. You've seen that with me and my daughter.
I was going to say, I'm like, you've watched that happen. You've
experienced
you voyeur.
You've experienced the females in your world having a period.
Yeah. Okay. So then keep going.
So that's the normal thing that should happen. Endometriosis is when the bleeding doesn't actually exit the body. So this thickening of the endometrium lining actually, like, it still sheds off, but it starts like it remains in the body. So it ends up being actual tissue growth. And the nasty thing about it is that it can start growing into organs. I forgot to mention with the gut, like, it's really common for women with endometriosis to also have SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because what can happen is the growth starts growing into the intestines, which means the intestines get very narrow and you can't pass food and bacteria from one end to the other effectively. So things get stuck up in the small intestines.
Yeah, right. Okay. So now the reason I asked is that we're about to talk about metaphysical, and there's going to be a metaphorical, you know, like we're talking about a wounding of something feminine, and a growing inside of you, swelling within, inability to let go and release, feel the flow, let flow happen, release, give yourself permission.
Do you want to talk into that? Your thoughts around what might be going on? Like, if you think about when I was reading out, well, what led to these symptoms, what was happening in your life, there was a lot of life stresses. So there was the stress of motherhood. She even tried to homeschool for a year, but felt like she wasn't managing. She's got a husband who's sick as well.
So just
stressful pregnancies.
Bomb dive into that one. So now I don't know, Leisha, what's so hard about that for you. If I was in your shoes, I'd probably find that really challenging and hard too. So what I'm about to say isn't, I can't believe you feel some kind of way about that, you know, but what's the answer to this question? Why is that a problem for you? And for anybody who's listening, if you're experiencing any sort of symptoms similar to Leisha, and you've had problems similar to Leisha, you know, with the what you just said there, Phil. Well, how is that a problem? Like, what's the let me try and say it pokey. What's the big deal? Why is this an issue for you? You know, so don't get angry that I asked you that question, but just introspectively wonder.
Or if you do, it's just like,
that's
cool,
interesting.
Just let it happen.
Yeah,
Starter,
what's the problem with that? How does that affect you? Keep asking yourself that question. And now it's a problem. You're showing that it's a problem because you're not allowing these things to just flow in and out of your life like a wave, like blood. You know,
seasonally,
you're holding into
cyclically, going with the flow,
the rhythm. You're holding on to these things that normally flow and that can flow, but you're blocking it up. You're preventing it, and you're allowing this to swell and grow and fester inside of you, scar you up from inside, allowing your femininity to be attacked and insulted. You know, so how is this a problem for you? What do you make it mean about you? They're really powerful and profound, simple questions, but I bet you could write a journal page or two on the answers.
This what you were saying about flow too. It's like, well, why is this a problem? Why can't you just flow through it? On the podcast application form, there's a bunch of patterns that we get the listener who's sending their case through to tick, and there are quite a lot of masculine dominant type patterns, unresourceful masculine, so overdoing, addictive doing, workaholic, constantly feeling anxious, worried. That might be more unresourceful feminine. Overwhelmed, stressed out, easily offended, defensive, taking things personally, often playing the comparison game, feeling frustrated with self, shame, guilt, apathy. So it definitely does sound like there's more of this unresourceful masculine pattern occurring. And how long has that been happening? Like, hasn't even been happening right from a teenager or maybe even a child?
I'm going to stop. This is what this, metaphysically speaking, I'm going to stop the natural flow of my life and prevent my femininity from flowing literally and metaphorically. I'm going to tap into masculine ways of being and doing in an unresourceful way so that I can fight against life and all its batterings against me because this is happening to me. That's what we meant before around victim mentality and drama.
Yeah. And then underneath that, there's going to be some deep unconscious core beliefs. So again, when we're talking about the patterns and the drama, and we use words like victim, that might sound offensive, but it's purely just data. It's just like, these are just the patterns, and with every pattern there'll be a deep belief underneath. And when we can get to that, then some really deep and beautiful healing can happen, which will start unraveling the patterns, which will allow a woman, if you're a listener, identifying with these more like go, do, offensive, defensive, overwhelm patterns, when you can start addressing the deeper root as to why you're running the patterns in the first place, then the patterns will actually start unraveling themselves. It actually feels like magic when it happens, because it's like, I didn't even have to strategize my way and make myself change that pattern. I'm just noticing that things are shifting inside of me and through me, and it's showing up physically in how I'm behaving. And when you can do this, this is also going to have a beautiful follow-on effect to your physical body. So now the body can actually start surrendering and relax and calm down, and you can drop more into the parasympathetic nervous system state, which is rest and digest and calm and safety. You can start producing serotonin, which is the safety neurotransmitter. It's peace, it's calm, it's stillness, it's great sleep at night. And so when you have this happening in your system, then your body systems are just naturally going to be able to heal, because inflammation is starting to dwindle off. Imbalances are starting to recorrect. Yes, you still might need a little bit of physical TLC and therapy through lab testing and supplements, but you've got bucklies of changing things from a physical point of view if you're still running these beliefs and these patterns that are keeping you stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, which is essentially saying, I'm not safe. My body isn't safe. I'm not safe to be in this world. Anything else to add?
This is in general, and I'm not saying, well, I don't know how, Alicia, you feel about us noticing these things. Sometimes these things can feel a bit pokey when they get pointed out or noticed. But we're not saying anything that you haven't unconsciously said to yourself or about yourself in the past. Having deep and important conversations like this with yourself about yourself are so important. You won't be able to grow, to rise up, to grow up, to become the next evolution of you. You won't be able to do that. You won't be able to have a good relationship with you if you don't have these important conversations. Just like any sort of relationship, if you don't have these conversations with yourself, you'll stay the same. And as we pointed out today, there's going to be some physical stuff. Even though you've tried a lot, you haven't tried it all. And then metaphysically speaking, there's some beautiful, profound conversations that you can have. So hope that all resonates with you.
Yeah. And also, like, speaking into, I've tried all the things. I don't think it's actually humanly possible. Maybe it might be if every month of your living life you've tried all the things.
Yeah.
But in saying that, the things that you have tried, and this is for all the listeners out there might be things that you have tried that might not have moved the needle the first time you tried them, but it doesn't mean it won't when you're ready to change. And this is the deep root cause healing that we're very passionate about. So I mean, we've had plenty of clients who are like, oh, I've done those lab tests, I've done those supplements, I've done the diets, they don't work. And it's like, okay, we probably don't have to retest. If you don't feel like any symptoms have budged, then those imbalances are probably still there. But let's work on this stuff over here first. Let's get to the root of, like, what's the deepest fear you have about yourself? What's this unconscious core belief that feels like it's ruling the roost, causing dysregulation and safety? Let's work on that. Then we can come back over here and try some things that you have tried previously, but now your body's going to respond to it. And on the other side, because Leisha mentioned that she did talk therapy, women's circles, meditation, I think it was, or hypnotherapy. And again, maybe there's some more of that mental, emotional, psychological support that may not have moved the needle, but it doesn't mean that it's because the thing has been exhausted and it's not going to work. Maybe you just weren't ready to change yet. Maybe there was a lot of fear, unconscious blockages, resistances that when you continue breaking those down, change can happen in a moment. And we have this saying, like, change takes a long time coming, but happens in a moment. There will be a moment that you wake up feeling different, that you have transformed, you have healed, you are changed. And you might say it was because of that one thing. Well, it wasn't, because all the things that you've tried in the past has got you to the point where you're now ready for change. The
Boom.
end.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. So hopefully this has helped gain a different perspective on endometriosis and the other inflammatory conditions that are often associated with it. And just a reminder, if you would like your case reviewed on the episode, you can go to the show notes and fill in an application form. Or if you want to be personally guided through our holistic root cause approach, you can either start with a Connect the Dots initial consult. I've just opened my calendar again and I've got a few spots available. Or
few, like literally, guys, a few.
Well, I mean, I don't have anything for July and there's some openings in August.
Hurry up.
Unless
Just
someone
get in.
reschedules and then there might be an early one. So anyway, check the calendar.
Run off the jetty, bomb dive in, guys. Do it.
Or we also, the very first session that you would have with myself in our Ending Body Burnout method is a Connect the Dots. So if you want to join the Ending Body Burnout method, the doors open again in September, and I'll pop the link to join the waitlist in the show notes.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Have the best day ever. See ya.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.